learned that Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. So I'm just going to get up the news article on it. Very fresh news. Obviously, Ozzy Osbourne has just completed the Back to Beginning concert with Black Sabbath at Villa Park just over 2 weeks ago, and now we learned that he's unfortunately passed away. Um, it's very sad news, probably a little bit expected, but at the same time, it's always very sad to hear when these icons pass away. So I'm just going to bring up the news feed here, and I'll give you as much details as I have at the moment. Okay, so I think Sky News were the first ones to release it here. So Ozzy Osbourne dies just weeks after farewell show. The heavy metal star reunited with his Black Sabbath bandmates on stage at Villa Park earlier in July. Heavy metal star Ozzy Osbourne has just died weeks after reuniting with his Black Sabbath bandmates and performing a huge farewell concert for his fans. In a statement, his family said, "It is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with family and friends, surrounded by love." So it doesn't actually say whether he passed away in his house in England or whether it was in the States. So we're still waiting for information on that. But I'm just continue reading this article. So, as he performed from a throne on stage at Villa Park less than 3 weeks ago, Osbourne told fans, "You've no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." It was a gig put together with performances from some of his favourite acts, including Metallica and Guns N' Roses, for the 76-year-old's final bow. Osbourne pioneered heavy metal with Black Sabbath before going on to have huge success in his own right. He was known for his hits, including Iron Man, Paranoid, War Pigs, Crazy Train, and Changes, both with the band and as a solo star. The singer also found a different kind of fame thanks to his noughties MTV reality TV show The Osbournes, which followed the Birmingham Raised stars' somewhat chaotic life. 1 second now, I think Gav's joining me here. Hi, Gav.
Bob?
Yeah, not too bad. I see we're online here live on YouTube for the first time.
Yeah.
For a very special occasion. I see there's plenty of people joining in here with us. We've 13 people so far watching. So you're just back from training.
Yes. I was trying to figure out a few different things. All right, but yeah, my God, sad news. Sad news. We did have a quick phone call there, but yeah, I think if he wanted to go out in a way, I think it's exactly how he would have wanted to go. I know as terrible as that sounds, but he kind of got to go to his own funeral. Which I think we'd all love to. Like, he got to be surrounded by the music he grew up with. He got to be surrounded by bands who he influenced. The genre expanded through all these huge bands like Metallica and so many bands. You know, you could see that he was actually. You know what? I don't think he was struggling too much, but like I was so shocked when I got the message that he passed away. Like,
It was expected, but at the same time, it still doesn't make it not a shock. It's still a shock.
sick, for so long, and you know, um, I guess it's not a shock, but for him to go through that whole show, um, it's just it's kind of hard to talk about. It's mind blowing. That How long ago is it?
Weeks ago, isn't it?
It must have took. It must have really took a lot out of him. We did chat before where he was taking the inhalers, and Bobo had explained to us that it's about opening your passage and stuff like that. So he obviously, I did hear other people saying who grew up with members of the family with Parkinson's and stuff like that as well, and had said that he's at the end here. they could pick up telltale signs, which I wouldn't have a clue of. And they said he's definitely coming to the end. But somehow I feel kind of, in a way, happy for him personally, because I think if anybody could write a script, like I said already, how to go out, that's the way to go.
Um, so when Dominique says he wasn't well for the last few years, and my older brother got me into Ozzy Osbourne. So it's great to hear. Keep the comments coming. We'll keep an eye on the comments as well. Hopefully Eric can join us shortly as well. But yeah, I suppose the whole back to the beginning, it was such a fitting tribute to Ozzy and to Black Sabbath. And now, as it turns out, like the timing was impeccable. As we were saying, like if he had passed away 2 weeks before the event, it would have been such a shame. All the planning and everything that went into that event. So it was great to see him make the event and even not just make it, like, but he sounded really good. And even though he couldn't get off the chair, he was still giving it his all on that night, wasn't he?
The end, because, like, the bit that kind of clickbaity stuff that was going around where they said, oh, they left him on the stage, but they went to go and get him a cake, and he was, you know, don't fucking leave me here. Like, it was his own personality right up to the end. And God, just thinking now about the guys, Bill and Geezer and Tony and all the guys, like, God, it must be just a whirlwind of, I think I heard Sharon being interviewed saying that it took over 2 years to put this thing together. And to just to how this all happened. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. Like, and like, funny. I seen a clip today of, I don't know if any of you guys seen it. The guy crowd surfing with his daughter standing on his chest. Did you see that? Oh yeah, like, so many memories coming through from that show, and from all ages too, and people that have traveled from all over the world to go to that show. And it's yeah, it's so crazy that he's gone so close to the show. And yeah, it's I'd say a lot of people that was performing at that show are just gobsmacked right now.
You're right. They're thinking back like that they were there at that moment in history. I was lucky to catch Ozzy twice live myself throughout my life.
Let's get my charger.
No, you're grand. You're grand. I'll keep going because we have plenty of listeners on here and viewers watching. But yeah, I got to see Black Sabbath first time back in 2013 when I was living in Australia, and they played the entertainment centre there, and it was about a 10,000 seater indoor arena. And we were standing for it, but we were quite far back. But yeah, they were great that day. They had, of course, Tony Clefitas was on drums, and then you had Tony Iommi on guitar, and Geezer Butler on bass, and of course Ozzy up front. But that was my first time seeing Black Sabbath. And then when I moved back to Ireland, they actually played in the Tree Arena, or the O2 it was called at the time, in Dublin in January of 2017. And that was actually the end tour. And it was the same lineup again, but for that one, I had a seat, and it was great because I could clearly see the whole stage and everything that was going on. And the great thing about Black Sabbath, like they don't rely on any tricks. They're totally about the music. Just four guys on stage rocking it out. There's no There's no big screen. Like there was a screen behind him and stuff, but there's no like effects. There's no pyro. There's none of that with Black Sabbath. No smoke and mirrors, as it were. I was due to see Ozzy twice. He was playing in the Point Depot way back in the day, and it got cancelled. And then he was due to play around COVID, and that got kicked out and got kicked out. And I had a feeling that his health wasn't great. That one was going to be cancelled, and it did get cancelled. And then eventually, it didn't happen. And then this show, the Back to the Beginning show, was arranged, and this was, I suppose, the highlight, and this was the big send off for Ozzy. And we wanted to give something back to people, and if they couldn't see them in a city near where they lived, they would be able to see him at least on the stream on Back to the Beginning. Um, just take a few more comments there. So Rick says, "R.I.P. Ozzy." Yeah, definitely. Someone else there saying, "Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne." Yeah, absolutely. Very, very sad news, no doubt about it. Me and Gav, though, we're kind of reminiscing, I suppose, and you might see a smile on our face. It's purely because we're just thinking back of how much joy Ozzy brought to people. I know he was the Prince of Darkness, but he didn't bring darkness to people's lives.
Personally, big shout out to Eric, who might be joining us. He was the one that told me to read the book, the audio book. This is Ozzy, I think it's called, right? And I am Ozzy, sorry, yeah. And God, I had some laughs out of that. He was truly and honestly himself 100% of the way. Like, with all the fame and all the riches and everything that comes with it, it seems like being a fly on the wall and watching him, he didn't change his stripes. He kept to who he was from the day one. You know, kid from Birmingham, and if you don't like me, tough shit, move on. I mean, I love that about him. Even with his family, and I know they went down the kind of showbiz route and all that, but I think he was looking out for his family and trying to leave them all financially secure in the future. And Sharon was very successful as well, of course. But he did it all for the love of, one, his family, and two, the music, I believe. But that book, some of the stories, the record deal in Germany comes to mind. The story about him on top of the tables, like, he just didn't care. He was so, you know, like it or leave it. That's who he was, and that's what I loved about him. And his music as well, like, from Black Sabbath, of course, and his own solo stuff was fantastic as well. And different guitarists that he went through, Randy Rhoads, of course, as well, and so many other, so
Kind of started. He was one of these guys. He was with a huge band, obviously, in Black Sabbath from 1969 to 1978. Eight impeccable albums, absolutely top drawer. I was never a big fan of Never Say Die, but after the weekend, I have to say, Back to the Beginning with Metallica and Guns N' Roses covering so many songs from that album, I'm now a big fan of it. I've been listening to it non-stop since the Back to the Beginning. But as you say, like when he started his own band, he didn't just bring in second-rate musicians. He started off with top drawer like Randy Rhoads, one of the best metal guitar players of all time. Absolutely brilliant. And then when unfortunately Randy passed away, he then brought in people like Jake E. Lee, who Shot in the Dark, Back at the Moon, The Ultimate Sin, all these fantastic, fantastic songs. And then even into the later years, then Zach Wilde, of course, from he came from a band called Black Label Society, he's gone on now to play with Pantera, but an absolute beast on the guitar. And then in the middle of that as well, in the mid 2000s, he had a guy called Gus G, who was another fantastic guitar player. So like he knew how to pick them. Like he knew good musicians and he knew how to put together a great band. That's right. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not even talking about being a guitar player. I'm just talking about the guitar players. But of course, you're talking about bass players: Mike Inez, Rob Trujillo, Rudy Sarzo, Bob Daisley, like all absolute top drawer musicians. And then drummers. You've got who? Mike Borden, Tommy Aldridge was there for a couple of years. Um, um,
TV Unplugged was the closest thing to playing at your own funeral. I think Ozzy actually played at his own funeral, if you get me. He was surrounded. He was surrounded by a lot of them names that you just named, who he was in bands with, and his family. He got to see his daughter get proposed to. All these little things, like it's heartbreaking now when you think about it. And again, the comedic end of it, where he's like, you're not marrying my fucking daughter. He just was himself. But I guess obviously I'm not a doctor, but I guess the show really took it out of him.
Yeah, I think it was just he probably was looking forward, and there was videos of him training and stuff, getting ready for this night for so long. And then, as you say, he put so much into that night, took it out of him, and then he was probably
Yeah, right.
the scenes in relation to building up to this gig.
When did you first hear this news, Rob?
Literally, when Eric texted me
Right.
this afternoon, yeah, it just came in on WhatsApp there. So it was around 20 past 7
Yeah,
Irish time. Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. I was like, whoa.
yeah.
But yeah, like it's just kind of hard to believe. Like I was sitting right here chatting to you, and we were, breaking down the show and reviewing the bands, and you know, such like I believe at one stage there was 4 million or 5 million people streaming the show. Like that just shows you the effect that he had on people, and that show had on people. So many people were looking forward to it. So many people traveled from all over the world. That's what they meant. Guest that we had on, Bobo from Dublin, like he's a huge Sabbath fan, and he it meant everything to these guys. These guys that grew up with them, to see them one more time, even though Ozzy was, he had his flaws or whatever. But I don't think people cared. I really don't. I didn't hear one negative thing from anybody. Um, I think everyone was just happy to see the original lineup there one more time, and yeah, it just must be heartbreaking for the band. It really,
Like a big family on stage that day.
mm,
And I think they're all probably feeling it now. They're probably happy they got one last chance to meet up with Ozzy and play some of his great music.
mm,
But at the same time, they're probably feeling it this evening. Just a few more comments coming in there. Dominique Pillon, he had a TV show called The Osbournes in the early 2000s. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a fan of The Osbournes. I think I watched half an episode and that was it for me.
I
I
enjoyed it.
wouldn't be big into reality TV, Big Brother or Love Island or whatever. I don't watch any of that. I have no tolerance for it.
But we never got to see inside the life of a rock star and his family. Like it was so different. Um, it yeah, it was kind of a bit. It was, let's just say, it was very well edited, but yeah, like they made out comedic parts from him, but he was himself too. Like he was funny. He was funny, but like in the book as well, it says like there was one room in the house that he kept to himself, and he'd go in and he'd smoke a few J's and have his few beers, and no cameras allowed in this room. But I love that about him. But yeah, yeah, it's kind of weird using past tense. You know, you,
To change the way we think about it now. Um, yeah, for me, like Ozzy, I grew up knowing Ozzy as the lead singer of Black Sabbath and the rocker, and getting into his music, and that was before the Osbournes came on the scene. So when it came on the scene, like obviously I saw it as a cash grab, which is exactly what it was. But I couldn't. I just thought it was taking the piss of Ozzy for a financial gain, and I didn't like that. Um,
I think. I think he. I think he knows. He knows how to play up to a camera.
right, yeah, I say you're right. Um, yeah,
He pretended that he came across cheaper, but it was a double bluff. If you get me.
there's plenty of those guys out there in the media. Roy Keane's another one. Yeah, so they know how to play it. But yeah, I didn't really, yeah, I didn't really follow it a whole lot. But they did gain popularity on the back of the Osbournes. There's no doubt about it. You know,
It was huge. It was the number one TV show watched in America for years. It was absolutely huge. Philip there, I see TNT. He died. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, man, he passed away this evening.
so we decided to jump on and have a little chat on it. Um, but yeah, look, it's hard to describe, isn't it? How you feel like. Obviously, we didn't know him, we never met him, and we never like it was just someone that was like an icon. But yeah, it's one of those things where you just have to. I don't know. I'm being called here, so we might cut it short and might jump on your call there, Gav. Yeah. Okay, guys, if you're interested in watching more about Ozzy and him passing away, make sure you stay tuned to That Sound podcast. And while again, we're going to have plenty of stuff coming out in the next 24, 48 hours. So stay tuned. Okay, take it easy.